Hey there, Shakers, and welcome back to another episode of Worth Your Salt, the podcast that's here to supercharge your marketing in the health and wellness space. I'm Jennifer Orechwa, StoryBrand certified coach, and over the past 2 decades, my team and I have tested, iterated, and figured out what it takes to market and grow so you don't have to. Now I'm here to help you apply the marketing systems that truly work. At Salt Marketing, we're all about helping wellness practitioners like you build trust, authority, and a nonstop flow of clients. So if you're ready to take your practice to the next level, you're in the right place. Let's get started. As you might imagine, we get a lot of guest pitches here on Worth Your Salt, but we're pretty selective in who we invite on the show. My goal is always to serve you, our audience, first. So when today's guest sent me her pitch, I told her that rarely do I hear from someone who is spot on a perfect guest, but that's exactly who she is. So today, you're going to hear from the owner of Fit for Profit, a certified profit-first professional, and the author of the brand new book, The Fiscal Fitness Playbook, How to Transform Your Wellness Business to One That Serves Your Lifestyle. Shannon Simmons works with gym owners, studio owners, coaches, and wellness practitioners who love what they do, but feel stressed, underpaid, or overwhelmed by cash flow. I invited Shannon to talk with us about why so many wellness businesses struggle financially, the hidden money leaks that quietly drain profit, and how to build simple, sustainable systems that allow your business to support your life instead of running it. If you've ever wondered why your practice looks successful on the outside but still feels financially heavy, this episode will give you clarity, confidence, and practical next steps. Shannon, I'm so thrilled to welcome you to Worth Your Salt.
Thanks, Jen, for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
So for our listeners who haven't met you yet, how do you describe what you do at Fit for Profit and who you serve in the wellness world?
Yeah, so Fit for Profit helps wellness business owners to build a business that pays them well, supports their growth in their business and their personal life. And really, we do that through small steps. We are not about overnight changes in your business or overnight huge results. You're not going to get that, but you're going to grow sustainably. We really want you to have that firm foundation as far as when it comes to money. So sometimes that's about tightening the belt as far as spending and understanding your cash flow. Sometimes it's about profit or pricing. It's always really about making informed and decisions that are aligned with your goals and that you have clarity around. I feel like so many times business owners don't really understand the impact that their decisions are going to have on their finances. And that's really what we want to help people do, is understand everything impacts money and how to make the most of those decisions.
Yeah, I love that. And I love what you said about little small changes. Like, you're not going to see overnight transition here, but I assume that's come from having worked with business owners since like 2008. And you're now focusing exclusively on fitness and wellness businesses. So what drew you so specifically to this space, and what keeps you here?
Yeah, I really have a heart for people who have a heart for people. And people in the wellness space, business owners, I feel like have a heart for people, and you're doing incredible work in the world. And I want you to be able to do that work as long as you want to do that work. And so many times I see people in the wellness space. Listen, most business owners don't have a business background or don't have a business education, but I find that to be really true in the fitness and wellness space. Like, you're amazing practitioners and you just need somebody to help you understand business so that you can do that, like I said, as long as you want to do that and you don't burn out and go out of business and then you're not helping anybody.
Yeah, that's so true. And so many people in this industry feel called to start their business. They feel called to serve people in this particular way. And that doesn't necessarily mean they have a background in business or finance or marketing. And so those are particular challenges. They're really good at what they do. So the title of your book is The Fiscal Fitness Playbook, How to Transform Your Wellness Business to One That Serves Your Lifestyle. When you think about a business that truly serves your lifestyle, what does that look like in real life for a gym owner or a practitioner?
Yeah, I really think it comes down to a couple of different things. First of all, I believe you deserve predictable pay from your business. Not just pay from your business, but predictable pay where you're able to like create a lifestyle and maintain a lifestyle. Like, you didn't go into business to not get paid. And you probably have some goals beyond your business as far as what you want your life to be like. So I want you to have that predictable pay. Also want you to know what a predictable capacity is for your business. Like, how many people can you serve? How many people do you want to be serving? How many people might it be best if you're serving? And then, like, having that predictable cash flow so that, again, it all comes back to those decisions that you're making, so that you can invest predictably in marketing and hiring help and taking time off. All of those things, like, that's what makes that fiscally fit business, right? It's like one that serves the business owner and the clients and the team if you have one.
So can you paint a picture of what that looks like, a fiscally fit business where like you said, the clients and thrives, the team thrives. What does that look like in the business?
Yeah. So again, it's a business that I believe has that predictable cash flow, right? That we can look at and we can say, like, we pretty much know. So I'm a big believer in recurring revenue, right? That's what we're going to get eventually, I think, with this conversation.
Me too. Yep.
Like generating some kind of recurring revenue, understanding what your expenses are. Your expenses may not be predictable, except for that, like if you have an annual expense, you know it's going to happen every February, right? And so that becomes predictable. So really just knowing what is coming as far as cash flow goes. And then, like I said, having a team that cares, that you can take care of as the business owner, I believe, and this is if you have a team, if you don't have a team that you're taken care of as the sole practitioner, right? Because again, if you're not taken care of, then you're not taking care of your clients well. So if you're not taking care of your team, they're not taking care of your clients. And the opposite is true, right? If you're taking care of your team really well, then they're taking care of your clients. Then your clients become raving fans and you have a different kind of marketing. So I just believe a fiscally fit business, all three of, I kind of like to talk about a three-legged stool. All three of those aspects, your clients, your team, and you as the business owner are supported and not burning out and excited for what the business, whatever the mission of the business is. And like I said, clients are getting results because of that then too.
Very nice. And I love that idea, that three-legged stool, that all those pieces have to work together. But you're also a mastery level certified Profit First professional. So for a wellness owner who's never heard of Profit First, and we do Profit First, so I definitely want to hear what you have to say. Why should they care about having a cash management system instead of just like hoping that there's money left over at the end of the month?
What I love about working with wellness professionals too is you understand this from the work you do with your clients. When you see your clients putting their health last, let's say, what happens? It suffers. It's not taken care of. We talk about what happens when you put your family last as a business owner. What happens when you put like your faith or your spirituality last, right? You just suffer personally. So what happens when you put your profit last? It doesn't happen. It suffers. It's not forefront in your mind. And so it's just kind of this, we hope it will be left over, but it rarely is. And so that's why I'm just such a strong proponent of Profit First and this cash management system that works together with your accounting and bookkeeping. It doesn't replace either of those things. It just helps you understand and again, make those decisions about your spending when you have different buckets for your money so that profit isn't left over till the end, because that doesn't usually work.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't work. So I'm curious about what made now the right time to write this book. What gaps did you see in the financial advice that's really out there for wellness professionals? What inspired you?
So we've been doing Profit First for 10 years, and we would coach people to increase their profitability. And this happened for a couple of clients over and over again, because we've been working with them now for like 8 years. They would get to a new level of profitability and then something would happen and they would self-sabotage and they would slide right back down. And I was like, what is going on? Why can we not maintain the success? And I just realized that there was this mindset piece that we weren't addressing in our work here at Fit for Profit until a couple of years ago. And so, like I said, I saw people growing their revenue and getting profitability increases, but it wasn't sustainable. It wasn't long-term. And so when I wrote the book, I really wanted to include both the practical of Profit First and the emotional mindset piece of a money relationship. So that's really what made it now is the right time.
That makes sense. All right, Shannon, we got to take a quick sponsorship break. When we come back, I want to talk more about how to strategically transition to that idea of going through profit first as opposed to waiting for your money to be left over at the end of the month. So we'll do that. We'll do that when we come back. We'll be right back.
The small business juggle is real, but for every headache you have, Thrive has time-saving solutions that you can customize to work for you. So if managing it all, clients, teams, messages, and, the actual work, has you feeling a little burnt out, Thrive can help you take back control. Your time is precious. Don't waste another minute managing missed calls or messages, no matter where they come from. Thrive lets you bundle all of your communication apps into one place. Oh, and did we mention that you get a free phone line and web chat for your business? And if you're spending hours keeping up with customer info, chasing down payments and invoices, or trying to book appointments, we've got you covered. Thrive can give you back 20 hours of your life each week. And to save you even more time, Thrive can help you with marketing and promotion. No need to hire someone new or even go back to school. We make promoting your business and getting found online easy, and maybe even fun. With landing pages built in minutes, social media made simple, and enhanced local listings. Plus, we help you crunch the numbers so you can see what's working and reach the right people at the right time. So if you're ready to feel like you have it all under control, we're ready when you are. Let Thrive help you get back to doing what you love. After all, that's why you started your business to begin with. Small business runs better on Thrive. Create your free account today.
We're back here on the Worth Your Salt podcast with Shannon Simmons of Fit for Profit. And so, Shannon, in the Fiscal Fitness Playbook, you start with a wealth relationship shift. So how do we begin with the relationship to money before we're talking about spreadsheets or strategies?
Yeah, exactly. We all have a relationship to money, whether we know it or not, whether we're aware of what our relationship is with money or not. And like I was talking about, like people don't know, and it leads to self-sabotage. And so I just want people to understand, like, we have to get your nervous system in a place that it's safe, it feels safe, and it's calm when you're dealing with money, so that when we make those practical changes and shifts, it's going to be a little unsettling, right? Because it's change, it's a shift, it's new, but we can get you back into a calm state with your money before you like say, never mind, the change isn't worth it. I don't want to do that. I'm just going to go back to what's safe, what I knew, even though it wasn't working. That's why we have to start with that relationship shift first.
Yeah, absolutely. And you invite your readers to imagine money as a person and even write a letter to it. So what tends to come up when your clients do that exercise? How does it change the way they make those decisions around money?
Yeah, it starts to soften the way they make those decisions, right? A lot of people, when they write that letter, realize that they're treating money like a threat or like they feel like a failure with it. They've been discounting their decisions. They're, like I said, they figure out that they're overspending on marketing. Sometimes it's really about like they're almost ghosting the relationship, right? And that is like, we hear that in real relationship world. But we deal with this. We'll get a client that will come to us and they're super excited to implement Profit First. They sign on, they start paying us, and then we can't even get them on a call. And so they're literally like ghosting us. They're ghosting, but it's not us. They're ghosting the change. They're afraid of the change. People come to us all the time who have been like heads in the sand. They don't want to deal with money. So they just put their head in the sand and hope that it will be better. And it rarely works that way. It just doesn't. So those are some of the things that people like realize, this is the way I want my relationship to be, but that's not actually the way that I'm relating to money right now.
Yeah. And you say that our money relationship doesn't just live in our heads, like it lives in our bodies and our nervous system. So how does that show up in the day-to-day?
Yeah, I mean, again, it comes up in some of that burying your head in the sand. It also comes up as like procrastination, or sometimes the opposite. It comes up as urgency. Like, have you ever made a really bad sales decision where you took on a client that you knew wasn't going to be a good client?
Who hasn't, right?
Right.
Yep.
Guilty, done.
Yep.
And that's because I had some fear around not having enough money in the future, right? I was like, well, I'm gonna take this client, it'll be worth it, right? And that really ends up working. So it's really interesting to me. This is true in a lot of different things when it comes to money. Like I said, procrastination, and then I said urgency, and those are sometimes the opposite. And that's what we find. Like, it doesn't really matter what your money relationship is, but it manifests itself in different actions for different people. For some people, it's burying their heads in the sand. For other people, it's like, I got to make all the decisions right now, and I have to, and there's a lot of pressure to make the right decisions. So those are just some of the things that show up in those day-to-day actions from that relationship.
Yeah, it's fascinating how much psychology goes into your relationship with money. And I know it often comes from our families and how we were raised and those sorts of things. But it's really interesting to hear you say that. So in your book, key number 2 is coming up with proven strategies to maximize profit and cash flow. So when you look at a typical wellness business, what are some of those sort of hidden links that you see? I mean, we're talking about things like membership churn or overspending on certifications or lifestyle creep. What sorts of things do you see that as?
Yeah, I would say probably the number one thing I see is people underpricing their services. And this, again, comes about for a multitude of reasons. Or in a multitude of ways. Like, again, fear around, well, if I charge more than somebody, then I won't get the clients, they'll get the clients. And so we just look at what the person down the street, the practitioner down the street is charging, and we try to make ourselves comparable to them. We may be a little bit more, a little bit less. And I just try to remind people, you don't know about their profitability either. They may be suffering in the background as well. So beware of who you're copying. So like I said, underpricing is a big one that I see. The other one is like just either delivery creep, payroll creep, those expenses. Every time you increase your revenue, you just increase expenses. And there's actually a psychological law, Parkinson's law, that says the more we have of a resource, the more we're going to use of that resource. So the more money you have, the more time you have, whatever it is. And we see that all the time with money, and just people not paying attention to those subscriptions that they are paying for. And they don't even know they're paying for them. They forget because, again, they're not even looking at their bank statements on a regular basis. So they don't even know what's on there. So I would say those two things, those are the places we start most of the time. Like, we ask people, when's the last price adjustment you did, or price analysis? If it's been more than a year, we'll definitely start there. And then looking at those operating expenses and like, do you even know what your operating expenses are? That's the first step usually.
Yeah. That awareness, I think, is probably a huge piece of the puzzle. And going back to what you said earlier about, this is a slow process. Like, it's little things. You make a really strong case that small tweaks, like a 5% increase in revenue, a 5% reduction in payroll, 5% reduction in overhead, that adds up to big profit gains. So why do those tiny percentages move the needle so much? How do you help owners believe that small hinges really can swing big doors?
It really is just math. When you increase your revenue 5% and then you decrease your operating expenses 5%, that's a 10% swing in your profit, right? But the other piece of that is really what we're about here is behavioral patterns and behaviors that you can change. So when you start doing those things and you start to see the results of those, you want more of that. When you start to build a savings account that has money in it and you see like $5,000 in it, it's motivating to make that $6,000 or $10,000. And I will just pause here and say, I'm not about doing profit at the expense of your clients, right? I've had people come to me and say, how can you say profit first? I want to have my client results be first. Remember, I said it's a three-legged stool. We want to balance all of those things. So I want your clients to be getting results, but I want you to be profitable too. So doing those in those small steps, that 5%, like I said, you start to see what 5% feels like. And then you're like, maybe I can go for 8 or 9%, and it just builds from there. So it's really about those psychological habits that we're improving and applying.
Definitely. And you talk about boosting profitability without burning out and putting a huge emphasis on systems, financial systems, hiring systems, marketing, even decision-making systems. So what's your philosophy for wellness owners who are scared to get too regimented in the way they operate? I mean, a lot of them are used to kind of flying by the seat of their pants.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that question because there's always room to tweak systems is what I would say. But if you don't have systems and you literally are flying by the seat of your pants, I would argue that is draining so much of your energy every single day. I've been there. I ran a business for myself for 3 years by myself where I was literally making every decision. And I didn't have any systems in place because I didn't need to, because it was just me, myself, and I, right?
Right.
And I will say now, 17 years later, we pretty much have everything documented. But anytime we need to make a change, it's so much easier to make a small change versus getting the whole thing documented in the first place, right? So that's why I just think creating a system, it doesn't have to be a really complicated system. In fact, I'm a big fan of let's make it as simple as possible, but let's get a system in place so that then we can see what's working and what's not working, and we can figure out what we need to tweak to make the system better so that it all works better.
Yeah, I love that. And there's a story in your book about a entrepreneur named Mike who went from wanting to sell his business to building a team that was loyal and well taken care of thanks to those systems and the profit structure that was put in place. So I'm wondering, what does that story kind of reveal about the freedom that you're ultimately trying to create for your clients when we talk about those systems?
Yeah, I think it's what we were just talking about, right? That you can keep serving your clients without over or without burning out or without being the bottleneck in your business. But it does require both that profit structure and that operational structure. And when you have all of those things, there is a lot of freedom in that, because now you can delegate more of your things to other team members so that they're doing those tasks, and you get to do higher level things. And like I said, Mike, I mean, he still has his business. He actually now has two businesses, right? He has taken the free time that he created for himself with the first business, and he's starting another business. So he's helping more people in that way. And it just, everything continues to exponentially multiply because he has that money, that cash management system in place, and those operational systems in place.
Yeah, I love that. And I think a lot of wellness practitioners kind of miss that point, that the more revenue, the more profit that they can drive, the more people they can serve. And that's kind of why you got in the business to begin with. So, yeah.
Exactly.
All right, Shannon, it's time for another quick break. We'll be right back after this. You're enjoying the Worth Your Salt podcast. Today, I'm joined by Shannon Simmons, founder of Fit for Profit and author of the Fiscal Fitness Playbook. Shannon is helping wellness business owners take the stress and guesswork out of money so that their business can actually support the life they want to live. If something you hear today hits close to home or sparks a new way of thinking about your finances, we'd love to hear from you. Connect with us on Instagram, LinkedIn, or Facebook, and let us know what resonated. We're back. And Shannon, before the break, you walked us through sort of the philosophy behind fiscal fitness, like why mindset matters, and where so many wellness owners kind of leak money without realizing it, and how simple systems can actually create more stability and freedom. So now that we've laid that foundation, I want to shift into kind of the practical side of the conversation and talk about what our listeners can do to take real doable steps that they can take right now to start strengthening cash flow, protecting that profit, building a business that truly serves their lifestyle. So I want to get really practical. So if a wellness practitioner is listening on their drive to work and they're feeling that pit in their stomach about money, like you were saying, they write that letter to money and they feel like they've, kind of not had a good relationship, what's the first simple sort of diagnostic question you'd have them answer about their numbers?
Yeah, about their numbers, I would say, do you know what your break even point is? And I'll explain break even point because I don't even like to use a lot of jargon, but how much revenue do you need to generate, whether it's weekly or monthly, to cover all of your expenses, weekly or monthly? Honestly, I would start with, do you know that number? Because it's, if you're not covering your operating expenses, then it's really hard to be profitable, right? But once you know what that number is, then we can start to look at like pricing and all of the other things behind it. So that number, knowing that number, I would say is the first thing that we talk about most of the time.
I love that. And as you're talking, I'm thinking, do I know that number? Would I have to sit down and add it up on a piece of paper? Probably.
Yeah, and it does change regularly. So it is a thing you have to
true.
revisit on a regular basis.
Yes. Absolutely. And you talk about reviewing expenses and often being able to find maybe 10 to 12% that can be trimmed without harming the client experience. And so if somebody gave themselves an hour this week, so to hunt for those money leaks, what should they be looking for? What questions should they be asking themselves to find that 10 to 12%?
Yeah, I would pull up your, at least the last bank statement or credit card statement, or both if you have expenses coming out of both, maybe 2 or 3 months worth of those, and literally going through every vendor and asking, first of all, do you even know who the vendor is? Can you exactly say what you're paying them for and what you're getting for them from them? And then really thinking about each expense, like, am I getting the value that I'm paying for from this expense? Can I negotiate this expense? Like, you guys, I have an insurance question, insurance story for you. When my son was turning 16 and we went and started getting quotes for car insurance, and I realized they were coming in less than what I was paying somebody else. I was a 16-year-old boy. That is not normal. I was like, we have been overpaying for insurance for so long because we had not just gone out and explored the market, right? So
Mm.
looking at those expenses, are there ones that you could negotiate? Are there ones that you would feel okay going to the current vendor or a different one and saying, can we do this cheaper? Can you explore the
Mhm.
market? And then are there others that maybe aren't benefiting your clients at all, or you're not using at all, that you could just put on the chopping block right away? So those are kind of the three different things we look at. Do you even know who it is? Are you getting the value? Could you negotiate it? And how would that affect your clients and your team too, right? Like there may be some that aren't affecting your clients, but the client experience would change because your team wouldn't have access to something.
Mhm.
But a lot of times people will find expenses in that process that they don't even know they're paying for. Those are easy ones to just chop right away.
Yeah, it's like those ads on TV where they're like, "Do you know how many subscriptions you have?" And people are like, "Yes, I know. No, you don't." So
There
I
you
want to
go.
go back to something that you were talking about earlier around pricing. Pricing is such a sticking point. So can you walk us through a quick sort of like on a napkin sketch kind of way for a practitioner or a coach to sanity check whether they're actually priced for profitability instead of just, like you said, matching the place down the street?
Yeah, I will say too, the other piece that is really important when it comes to profitability, because I'm also focused on that burnout piece, is do you know your capacity? Because that plays a big part in your pricing. If you don't know how many people you can physically serve, and I mean physically, like it doesn't matter if you're just meeting with them on Zoom, that's still like a mental load for
Mhm.
you to bear. How many can you actually do that with, right? And then just knowing that monthly revenue number that you need and knowing how many people you can actually serve in the time you want to work. And if you want to work a 40-hour a week in your business, that's fine, but you're not seeing clients 40 hours a week because there's got to be admin time in there. So dividing those, right? Like that's where we really start with what is pricing for profitability. So making sure that you're priced for your capacity first. And then we also play into that, like we take our profit first percentages. And really, as the owner, you should be taking anywhere between 25 and 50% for your pay. So, making sure that you're priced at a place where you can do that and still meet your monthly operating expenses. So, there's a couple different things that go into it, but that's really the basis for how we look at pricing.
Yeah, that's really good advice. And those profit first percentages are definitely something where I've always been curious about. At what point in the business do you change those percentages and those sorts of things? But for owners who feel like they start every month at zero, like what's a realistic first step to create recurring revenue, something they could map out this month, so that we can feed those percentages in a consistent way, even if they're a solo practitioner. How can we start to create that recurring revenue?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of recurring revenue and personally a membership model. Or like a maintenance plan, right? So something where you know what is an optimal time frame that somebody should be seeing you. Is it weekly? Is it monthly? Quarterly? Even? I don't care what it is, but even if it's quarterly, can you turn that into them paying every single month? Clients really like that too, right? They like the predictability of knowing I don't know, it's $75 a month, right? Or it's $175 a month. Like the number doesn't matter. You figure out what your number is, but that's predictable for them as well. So figuring out like that cadence that you want to be seeing your clients and just putting them on that and then charging. And one of the ways you can make that really appealing to the client is it's $200 if you're not on a membership and it's $175 if you are.
Hmm.
And again, I'm just pulling numbers out of the air here. Don't take those as what your numbers should be. But make it a little bit appealing, and it's so much beneficial for you to have that recurring revenue that the $25 is not a big deal.
Love that. So going back to one of the things in your book about a money ritual. So I wanted to go back to mindset really around this. So you described a client who moved payroll out to her sunny back deck and changed how she felt about running payroll. So if our listeners want to create sort of a 30-minute weekly money date with their business, what should happen in that time block?
First of all, find yourself a space that you really enjoy being in to do it. Even like if you can't do a sunny deck, I can't. I'm in Northern Indiana. It's like, I don't know, today it's 43. Monday it was 13. Light a candle, right? Do something that sets the mood for a calm experience, whatever that is for you. And then I like to, as far as the practical things, check your cash balances. What's in your bank account? And then you're going to know kind of what's coming up. Allocate to your accounts. Do those profit first allocations, whether you're doing those weekly or every other week. Make that part of your check in. That's a good weekly is a good starting place. So that makes sense for those 30 days. And then reviewing that revenue and your expenses that are coming up and making sure that the cash is all in the right place. And that you're not like, you shouldn't be stressing out checking your bank accounts every day. You do that once a week. You kind of have a plan for the week, and then you should be able to like hands off money for the rest of the week. And then if there's any other like tasks that you need to do, you have a list and you just kind of check through those.
And you offer a fiscal fitness success kit, something that like you offer a clarity call. So if we're listening to you nodding along, thinking like I am, nodding along and thinking like I need this, what happens in that call? What do they walk away with? Where should they go to take advantage of what you have to offer?
Yeah. So what you walk away with, we really haven't talked about like your actual bookkeeping. We also work with we do people's bookkeeping here at Fit for Profit. And I normally start with, do you understand what's on your financial statements? Does that even make sense to you? Is it accurate? Are you getting them on a regular basis? Again, kind of getting into that, like, or is your head buried in the sand and you're not paying attention to it? So timeliness, accuracy, and simplicity are the three things that we talk about first on those clarity calls. Because if you don't have timely reports, accurate reports, and reports you understand or are simple enough for you to understand, there is no clarity into your money. So those three things are the first things we talk about. And then if you have like QuickBooks Online or Xero or something like that, I'll actually get into that on a call with you and kind of tell you like, this is what I'm seeing, how I would make them more understandable for you. And then we can go from there as far as like what's available for you as far as profitability goes and things like that. But usually on that 30-minute clarity call, we're just talking about those three things with your bookkeeping, because that really is the basis for everything else that we're going to do. And our website's fitforprofit.com. And there's a button there that you can click to book one of those clarity calls.
Outstanding. So good. And of course, if you want to learn more about Shannon, we'll link everything up in the show notes at saltmarketing.co as well. But Shannon, it is time for our lightning round questions. These are a few quick questions that I like to ask of every guest. Are you ready?
Yeah, you're right.
All right. First question is, what's something about you that often surprises people?
I was actually raised on a farm, and nobody in my family has any business experience or knowledge or anything like that. So that's often surprising.
Interesting perspective. I like it. So what's your favorite thing about the work that you do?
There's just an aha moment when a client goes from guessing to really feeling in control, and I don't even like that word, in alignment with their money. Everything has a purpose, and they get it. And that just, when they have that confidence, I just feel like our work is done.
Yeah, moving from guessing to knowing. That's a good thing. So what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
To make sure that you're living in alignment with your values, and knowing your values, and everything else will fall in place from there.
And that is sometimes the hardest thing to do. It really is.
Not easy, but it's the best advice.
It is good advice. All right, last question. Who's inspiring you right now? What podcast are you listening to, or what's the best book that you read recently?
Yeah, so I've been really into short form education recently, just trying not to overload my brain. So I've been following a coach, Suzanne Taylor King, on Substack, and that has been really informative recently.
Interesting. I'll have to check that out. Shannon, thank you so much for joining me today on Worth Your Salt.
Thanks for having me, Jennifer.
I also want to thank you, Salt Nation. And of course, if today's conversation has you thinking I'm ready to take my marketing to the next level, that's exactly what we're here for at Salt Marketing. Our Salted Edge system is designed to help wellness practitioners like you attract new clients, convert them into loyal fans, and finally get marketing that works without the guesswork. Also, if you have a great success story, I'd love to talk with you and share your story. So tell us why you're worth your salt by emailing us at grow@saltmarketing.co. And of course, be sure to subscribe to Worth Your Salt so you never miss an episode. Finally, leave us a review or give the show a handful of stars wherever you get your content. That's all for this episode of Worth Your Salt. Be sure to join me again next time. In the meantime, let's get out there and shake things up.